Sunday is the 36th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the landmark disability rights law that prohibited discrimination against people with disabilities. The ADA was passed with large bipartisan majorities in both houses of Congress and signed by President George Bush on July 26, 1990. Sadly today, when disability rights and justice are under its gravest threat, I don't believe that the Americans with Disabilities Act could get passed, much less get a vote onto the floors of Congress. Disability is defined broadly by the ADA and includes both mobile and neurological conditions such as autism spectrum disorder and ADHD. The ADA's definition of disability also includes intellectual disabilities. The legislation was the culmination of years of effort and advocacy by disability rights activists such as Justin Dart Jr., oftentimes celebrated as the godfather of the ADA, and Judy Heumann, who is the subject of a new Apple original film biopic being directed by the Oscar-winning director of Coda, Sion Hayter. Being Human, that being the title. The film is set to be shown at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 10th, with an U.S. theatrical release on November 6th, and a streaming debut on Apple Plus a week later on November 13th. The movie stars Ruth Madeley as Judy Heumann. There were many others whose struggle and sacrifice has made the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, including the courageous activists who took part in the Capitol crawl when on March 12, 1990, they discarded their mobile devices and crutches and proceeded to crawl up the steps of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. to demand the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And while we're on this subject, I believe there should be a movie based on that event. Any Hollywood executives watching or listening, that's my pitch. I could even help write the screenplay. They should also make in my opinion, a biopic about Ari Naiman, the co-founder of the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and the first autistic individual to receive a presidential appointment. While I'm on this subject, I believe there should also be a biopic made about Alexis Wyman, the first autistic woman to compete in the Miss America pageant. Today, however, the long and hard-fought victories won by the disability community is under assault by people who want to roll back the clock to a time when people with disabilities, including autistic people, are locked away in institutions, away from public view. Recently, the Trump DOJ began circulating a memo that said that states don't have to abide by the integration mandate of the 1990 landmark Supreme Court Olmstead versus LC decision, which ruled that people with disabilities have a right to live, work, and receive services in their communities. The DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel, who put out the memo or slip opinion, doesn't believe that the integration mandate is law and that the federal government doesn't have to enforce it, and that states should be allowed to force people with disabilities back into institutions. It indicates that the Trump administration won't protect the civil rights of the disabled and neurodiverse. It's wrong and would constitute an injustice. The federal government should be championing and protecting the progress made in the cause of disability justice, not rolling it back.